I'm Joseph Brooks, and this is Lawyer in the Kitchen. Is rooster in wine, and it's a stew. It was a peasant dish that dates back to the time of Julius Caesar. Now, the reason I got Alex here, because when I say dates back to Julius Caesar, he's going to laugh. Am I wrong? Alex works with me. He's my paralegal, and we've worked together for a long time. Anyhow, Julius Caesar. That's all it takes. All right. So what happens with coq au vin? All right, coq au vin, it used to be, and the best recipe to start with and do what you want with it is Julia Child. She was a tremendous cook. She started this recipe, and it's the one that's used the most. Most people consider, a lot of people consider it to be the absolute best recipe for this. It's very much like the original, except she adds carrots and a couple of other things. But it used to start off with cutting an entire rooster in pieces and cooking for so long that it finally got tender. So it's like a peasant stew, like a cioppino for an Italian fish stew. But this instead is coq au vin. So we're going to start by adding a ton of flavor. We're going to start by cutting up some bacon, browning that, and getting all that fat to cook this chicken, these chicken pieces. We're going to go with chicken thighs instead of a whole rooster, where they're already going to be cut up by Publix. But we're going to start with that. In this instance, you want fatty bacon. The fattier the better. That's what you really want. They call it lardons. And the reason why we do that is we got to have plenty of animal fat to cook this chicken in and everything else that gets cooked. So take about half of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in pieces that'll be small enough to eat, because this is going to end up in the stew. And this way they can, when you cut it like this will fit in the pan nicely, this will fit in the stew, this will obviously it's going to shrivel up once the fat's. One thing I like about gas is you can actually see what the flame is on. We'll probably turn that down after we get started. Just lay these in the pan individually. This takes a little bit longer, but they'll come out better. If you're from the South, before you go on a date, you want to lather this up and put some behind your ears, because that's what women really like. As soon as it starts to get warm, you don't want it to stick. We're actually going to cook the entire coq au vin in here. And it's starting to get there, but it hasn't really browned yet. Let's go back and check this bacon. Now we're starting to brown. We're not done, and we don't have all the grease, all the fat in there that we want, but it's getting there. That's a good temperature because it's not burning and it is starting to brown. So that's good. Now for the chicken. I like to just do it like this, because you're not touching this very much, and it doesn't hurt to put a good amount of salt on it. It's going to be just fine. Same thing with the pepper. Now, I'll get the other side when I put it in the pan. And do put some pepper on it. You should put salt and pepper on your cereal. That's not true. So we'll get a plate. Sometimes I put a paper towel on the plate so that the bacon grease will drain onto it. Why? I mean, we're making the bacon for flavor and for the grease. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to put the bacon right on this plate. In fact, we're going to put the chicken on this plate too, once we get the chicken nice and brown. And then all that stuff, all that grease, all those drippings, they're going right back in that pot. All right. So just spoon those out. Those will be warm, very warm, and so it'll start cooking the chicken. Now, and if the chicken was really wet, I would dry that chicken off before I put anything on it, because you want it as dry as possible so that it actually browns. So just take our time, about 5 minutes on here. Now, Julia Child cooks her recipe in probably about an hour. I think it takes longer to cook than that. But most of you want to get brown, because the brown caramelization, that's where the flavor is. That'll flavor this whole pot. All right, so we got the salt and the pepper, and you do both sides. We're not really going to touch this chicken with our hands, again, until it's on the plate, and that's if you eat with your hands. So we got our carrots, got the onions over here. And yes, we are going to wash them. All right, now here's something very special, because you can really cut yourself cutting something hard like this. First of all, you want a sharp knife, number one. This is probably absolutely wrong, but I don't care. This is how I do it. I get the carrot to kind of stay still, and then I do this. I put the knife down here, get a little bit of edge into it, and then very carefully feel for it to cut it in half. Now, it's very easy to cut. Now this poor guy, I don't know. Okay, but still, I like to hold it, get it started, and then cut it in half. And then go ahead and trim this off. And the same thing with the bottoms. Now, since this is a stew, we're not going to cut these carrots up small. We're going to, nice, decent sized pieces here. And it takes less time. All that flavor. The second set of onions are the pearl onions. And you know, if you've ever peeled pearl onions, there's these little onions like this. Do not do that. Go get bird's eye pearl onions out of the frozen food section and put those in. Those will go in near the end, because that is too much work. Now some people, the purists will say you got to have completely fresh vegetables. I don't think with using an onion this big, it's going to make that big a difference. I cut it in half, so I've got something sitting flat. I do this, and then on this one, I don't care how big these are. They're gonna blend in anyhow, so that's gonna be fine. Sometimes you can keep doing it like this. If I was going to cut these and chop them up really finely, I'd still do it like that. I would just take this. I'd take the knife like this. Let's say just do this little section over here, and grab it like this, so it's on an axis, and do this. Except don't get your carrot on it. Anyhow, that's what I do, and then I'd switch this around, do that. We'll do that some when we actually get the garlic ready for this. One of the things you can have anything you want, and we're going to use basmati rice, because I like basmati rice better than regular long grain. And of course, there are different rices for everything, but basmati is nice and light and fluffy, and go through this. We're going to thicken this up. Julia Child, her recipe calls for a burgundy, which is softened butter and flour in equal parts, and you just keep throwing them in until you're right. I am going to do something completely different, which is what I like to do. Very, very, very cold water and flour, and then stir it, and then I'll pour in a little bit and see how we get with the liquid boiling hot until it thickens just to where we're really happy with it. Always remembering that it will be actually thicker than you think. So stop early rather than let them get too thick. This is flavor happening right now. This is where all the flavor is. This is a ton of flavor in here already. But what we're going to do now is, instead of adding brandy actually with the wine and the chicken broth, we're gonna flambe it. Okay, so at this point you want to turn your vent on, and you do not don't want to put too much of this in there. But if you do, always know where this is. Okay, not too much. That's about right. And then sit it there. There we go. And that's a nice flambe. That adds flavor. That adds a, we're going to do this a couple more times. But we're going to let this vent cool down some. Because this is wood. It has a different texture to it already. Look at that. It already changes it, and it changes the flavor too. Now, all the alcohol is out. That's what's burning. All right, so light it again. And there you go. Now, this is right now more oil than we want to have. More grease. That's actually a little bit more. That's plenty. Now look at all this. Look at all that. That is all going to be in there. That's all that flavor. Mix that around. See how it's already starting to come off of there? And then when you put more liquid on there, it'll be completely off. That'll be all in the broth. All right. Again, here's a good time to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Keep in mind, it's tough to take the salt out, so go gently with it. But this isn't too much. That's looking good. The rule of thumb on garlic is, if it's 4, it's 12. But other than that rule of thumb, it's also, the finer you cut up the garlic, the more flavor it will impart. And then, again, be careful doing that, but that's pretty much how you get it off there, because it'll stick on there. If it's good garlic, it's going to stick to your knife. And that's fine. If you do this early, I don't think it's as good. I think you want this to go in the pan right after it's been chopped up. We're very close in time. Just, you don't want the stuff getting too burnt. There, see how it's starting to pull off there? You don't want to let it get too dry. Now it's starting to pull off. It's nice brown, good flavor. But we don't want to overcook the garlic with high heat because it will get bitter. Taste. I actually prefer this one because it's a cool looking can. And not all tomato paste is the same, but it is. It's a cool looking can, I think. Now, you can smell that garlic. You smell that garlic, Michael? Oh, yeah. It's awesome. All right. All right, so we're at the point now, you want that paste to cook down a little bit. It'll turn a little bit darker. And you want to start, see the bottom of this pan now? Almost all of that cooked on is off. Alex, what is this? Look at it, Alex.
It's happening.
Julius Caesar. Okay. I'm going to use chicken base, which is the easiest way. We got some troublemakers here. All right, so we're going to use about. Would you like to taste? Alex? Yeah. Michael? What do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. So this is highly concentrated. And so that's a lot of flavor also. If you're going to cook with wine you would drink. Don't use a $3 bottle of wine to make this dish. 1918 Lafitte the Rothschild. Absolutely have one of these in here. We're probably going to put half of another one. Now we're going to put the chicken and the bacon back in. Don't slide it off the pan because you'll have wine all over your floor, all over your backsplash, and everywhere else. Just set that in there nice and gently. So that's the way to do this. We're going to let this get nice and warm. And we are now dump all those juices in there. We want all of that. That's all flavor. You can buy this for $3, or you can buy a little thing you can only use once for $2.29. So this has a shot at going. So I just do that. And there it is. And we have babies. You go, okay, I like this, I like that, or I don't like something. So you take stuff in, you add stuff, you take stuff out. To add the pearl onions, and then we're going to saute. Remember I saved this grease, bacon grease. I saved that. This has got flavor in it. So we're going to saute the mushrooms in this. And then we're going to put the mushrooms and the onions in there. And then the last 25 or so minutes, we're going to put our rice on, and we're going to have this meal with rice. So I'll be back with you in about an hour and a half. Everybody can make rice, okay, but I have my own way. I learned this at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, at a place called Teddy's Chop Suey, okay? And this little Asian lady told me to get the right, you don't measure anything except one thing. When you get ready to do it, you go up to the first joint and you put that much water above the top. So you take your finger right down here and you fill this thing, you fill the pot up over the rice that much. If you do that, you get it boiling, little oil, little salt, and as soon as it starts to boil, turn it down to low as it'll go for 20 minutes. Don't take the top off. That's done, and that's Teddy's Chop Suey rice. So we just come over here, get it good and wet, get it laying flat. You can already see that's not enough. See, you gotta come up to here. There it is. Now, put a little oil in it, a little salt, you could actually put some of that grease, the oil or the fat that we took off the bacon, that could actually go in there for this dish, but we're not going to do that today. Okay, put that on high. As soon as it boils, we'll time it for 20 minutes. Remember that oil we took off the bacon fat? Go ahead and heat up the pan. Pour some of that in. That's going to add more flavor. You're going to get most of this back now. And let that get nice and warm. And we're going to saute these mushrooms in this fat, and then we're going to put them in the coq au vin. And again, we're going to add a little bit of salt, but not pepper this time. Now, why did I do it that way? There's a reason. No, there's not. I made that up. All right, start to sizzle. And this time, while you're doing that, get your pearl onions. They're just going to open the bag, put that in the pot. In about 10 minutes, that'll be nice and warm, and that'll be fine. They won't be frozen any longer, and they'll be fine. They're not going to add much flavor. They have flavor and they have some taste, which is why you want to put those in at the end so they don't just turn into mush. The other onions that are in there that cook for a couple of hours now, those are pretty mushy. So let it burn, get them coated. If we can take a little bit more, that's not going to hurt a thing. You don't want to waste any of that bacon fat. And then, those of you who are young and from the South, again, remember there's some for dating. Let them sit there for a minute. They'll be fine. I like to put the water in first and then put it, but I like it nice and cold. Obviously, you don't want the ice in there. That's going to be plenty for this. And we're not going to make this super thick. But then you stir this. You can use a whisk. Probably less likely to break your glass. But I like to have fun when I cook. There's nothing like stepping on glass and having flour water all over the kitchen. We can move. That's nice and smooth, except for the lumps. but we still need to get out of here. All right, now it's good. All right, so what we do, these are fine now. We're going to put those in. We're going to wait just a minute, and then, but we're going to thicken this up a little bit. If you look at this, this has been cooking now for almost 2 hours. That has cooked for over 2 hours, okay? That is not a lie. Okay. All right, so we want it nice and warm. What we do is this. We add a little bit of this. I'm not going to make this super thick. I've eaten this in restaurants when it's, look, see how that meat's coming off the bone? Look at that. That is super, super soft. The skin's off too. You may not want the skin. That's okay. It's not going to be crispy anymore. All right, so this will thicken it up. As you can see, get it? That's nice and that's plenty thick. Look at this. This is about where you want it. All right. As soon as the rice is done, we'll put the mushrooms in. We'll put the pearl onions in, and this dish will be done. How much longer is the rice cooking, Alex?
We got 3 more minutes.
If I asked you too many times.
Extremely too many times.
Julius Caesar. And when you cut like parsley or something like this, you got the knife close to your fingers, curl your fingers like that, okay? Otherwise, well, they'll curl on their own. I hope this is right. I think it looks pretty good. That's nice and fluffy. Look at that. I don't think I have a piece of chicken that does not come apart.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no other way to do it.
Oh, looks great. Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah. Thank you. It's your perfect rice.
Look at that.
It's because you timed it perfectly.
There's that time in Alex.
It's that time.
And that exact amount of water.
I mean, it's down to a science.
It's
It's pretty concise. You want to go slower? Oh, baby.
That is sweet right there. Look at that.
That's a life we live in.
More juice there. There you go.
Very good.
Delicious.
What do you think?
I like it.
All right.
Those pearl onions.
You need to play piano for no crap. I'm cooking.
It's very good.
Another great meal at Brooks' house.